on board with people when they say English food is not great. So would you be okay with your boyfriend having female friends, or going for dinner with just one female friend and drinking? Well, most Korean girls would say absolutely not. The skills people have here, the number of skills people have here is so impressive to me. I'm very envious.
Welcome back to K-Talk Studio. Thank you for coming back every week. And today we have a special guest from England, James Angel. Welcome. Very excited to have you here. Cheers, brother.
Let's go.
How did you end up in Korea?
Like a lot of people nowadays, I got into Korea through like the music and the TV films back in 2015. So it's quite a while ago. And I'd never traveled outside of Europe. In 2019, I was actually going to go to China, but then COVID stopped all that. And then last year, around February time, I checked the flight tickets. I was just like, screw it, I'm going to do it. It was very spontaneous. I found a volunteering program where I could get free accommodation. Just for helping Koreans improve their speaking ability.
Oh, really?
And then I just went ahead and did that. I had the best time of my life those 3 months last year. So when I got home, worked really hard, earned a lot of money so I could come back this year.
I was reading this article about Korea, and you know how, I don't know if it translates to lookism. I'm sure you get this a lot. You have a very small head.
Yeah.
But that might come off as an offensive term, right?
No, I appreciate it.
Okay. Because you know the culture, yeah. But if you just landed in Korea, how would you feel if you didn't know the culture?
I'd just be very confused. Like in England, we're not like as direct with talking about someone's appearance.
Right.
When I tell people back home with my experiences in Korea, I'm like, oh, it's amazing. Like I love it so much. People treat me so well, but I know sometimes people treat me so well it's because of I'm skinny and I'm tall and I'm pale skin.
Do you ever think you're treated this way because you're white?
I'm aware of that, and it's ultimately a bad thing, but
it's nothing bad on your side.
No, I know, like ethically, but I know I try and tell people back home, like, listen, if you go, you may not have the same experience as me.
Right. So you know how in Korea, when you meet someone for the first time, they ask you, how much can you drink?
How many soju bottles?
Right.
From my experience, I would say 4 bottles.
4 bottles.
I've had a lot of, as I said, I did the volunteering thing. And I'd always talk to them, but sometimes I wish I wish I had a drink with them, because for me, I don't really know someone until I've had a drink with them.
Oh, that's such a Korean thing, though.
I'm quite similar to that sort of mindset.
If you decide to marry a Korean girl, future father-in-law will test you.
She's from Jeju.
Oh, really?
So yeah, her father loves to eat fish and then drink soju. So she forewarned me.
Have you been to Korean weddings?
Yes. Yeah. I went to 2 in one weekend. One was a normal one, and one was a traditional wedding.
But when you go to Korean weddings, you have to pay.
That baffled me when I first heard about it, to be honest.
But in England,
you give them gifts. So a lot of the time when people get married, they may be moving in together or moving into a new place. So you can just give them cutlery, for my parents, my mom and my stepfather, their wedding, lots of cutlery, pots and pans, things that they'll actually need and they'll use. Right. Or they'll make a list of gifts they want, and then all the guests will have to message each other and decide who's getting what. But Korea and USA are quite they're very, capitalist.
England is not?
Not as much. Our example is our NHS. We have free healthcare.
How good is it, though?
Terrible. For me, I never go to the doctors or the GP, my general practitioner, because the wait is too long. By the time I've seen them, the problem's already gone, unless it's an emergency.
That's very common in European countries or Western countries. But in Korea, if you have a zit on your face, people go to hospital.
I know. But some people say, if they have a cold, it's better to just go to the doctor because then they give you stronger medicine. Right. In that aspect, I understand, but at the same time, I'm kind of toughened. But I think for us, when you have something serious and the fact you cannot afford it is, your life shouldn't have a price. And so that's why it's something we're very proud of in England, is our healthcare. Even though the nurses are underpaid, they're overworked, we're very proud of the work they do.
England. I don't know why England has such a reputation. Okay, let's try to name English dishes?
Well, this should be for you. Obviously, I can name.
Okay, so fish and chips.
Fish and chips for me is like a
McDonald's.
4 out of 10, 5 out of 10 sort
Okay,
of food.
okay.
There are so many better English foods to try. Obviously, I'm like you, English food is not the best, but fish and chips being the most well known is really, it's not something you have for a nice meal. But for English food, I always tell this to people, and there's actually a place in Noksapyeong that does Sunday roasts. And Sunday roast is the most traditional English food. I am on board with people when they say English food is not great. The most popular takeaway in England is Indian food, and it's Chinese food. My favorite food to go eat where I live in my city is Thai food. And so what we have is like a lot of options from around the world, but sadly it's been like Englishified, you know, because in India, in China, it's very spicy. English people cannot eat spice at all.
It's so weird because you guys started wars for spices.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then we never decided to use them.
All right, so James, how did you meet your girlfriend?
I mean, it's quite a normal way we met, just through a dating app called Bumble. If you don't know it, it's just a normal dating app, but on this app, the girl has to message first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I really like about it. Yeah, so she messaged first, and then we just went on first date on like a Sunday. At that time, she was living outside Seoul, so she had to travel quite far. So it was just sort of one date a week for a few weeks, and then she eventually moved into Seoul, and then we just kept on meeting more. The connection was really good, and in Korea, dates are there's so many like things you can do for dates. So many fun things you can do and ways you can learn about each other. And eventually that led to us living together. It's been almost 5 months. And there haven't really been many issues. I think a lot of people would think, what about the cultural differences? England and Korea, the dating cultures or just cultures in general are so different. They're completely opposite almost.
For the viewers that don't know about England or English dating culture, can you explain a little bit?
You have stages almost. It takes a long time. In Korea, it's very fast. If you've been on 3 or 4 dates, you should make your decision, and that's kind of what it was here. In England, you have like a talking stage. That stage seems to last quite a while in England, and then you have like a mutually exclusive stage where you just say, "Oh, I'm seeing this person. We're only seeing each other." But to me, you're basically dating, but they won't label it as dating. I remember after the 3rd or 4th date, she showed me on her phone, like, "Oh, have you deleted the app?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've deleted the app." And like to her, I think that was basically like, "Oh, okay, then, we're kind of like just talking to each other."
Okay.
Although I would say she's not like super Korean in her dating style, my girlfriend, because, we never had a talk where it was like, we are now girlfriend and boyfriend. It kind of just
happened naturally.
And then obviously once we live together, like that's it really, which I was very shocked about because my perception of Korea, especially
very conservative
Korean girls, very like, you won't live together until you're married almost. That was the perception I had. I've spoken to many Koreans and they're like, some of them were engaged and they're like, yeah, I don't live with my boyfriend. She still lives with her parents, for example. So I was very shocked when my girlfriend was like,
well, she offered it first.
Because I said, at some point I have to leave my current accommodation. She offered,
Just come in? Oh.
I feel that's more down to personality rather than like where they're from. And for me, my whole life, I've been someone who's traveled a lot. I've always been more intrigued by people who are from a different background to me. So if I'm on a date with an English girl, I'm not really interested in like their school. Like, "Oh, what did you do? What was your school life like? Were you popular?" And like, I can tell from their personality if they were liked at school or not. But in Korea, it's totally different. I don't know if my girlfriend was a popular person in school or she was a bit of a nerd or something like that. So I'm very interested. I'm always engaged. And there's so much more to learn. And, I realized this while I'm dating my girlfriend is like, there's nothing really she does or about her culture that surprises me. Because, I've spoken to other people who've had like, they're international couples here. And there's a lot of like cultural differences that affect them. And I knew about them, but I'm just lucky my girlfriend is open to that sort of thing. So for example, would you be okay with your boyfriend having female friends or, going for dinner with just one female friend and drinking? Well, most Korean girls would say absolutely not. But I made this quite aware at the beginning. I have a lot of female friends, quite normal in Europe. And I said, I have a lot of female friends and you have to be okay with that. And she's just like, oh yeah, that's fine. And so I'm very lucky in that sense.
Have you ever thought about marrying a Korean girl?
I am absolutely open to it. Obviously, like my current girlfriend, we're still fairly early, maybe 5 or 6 months. Isn't that long, but I know in Korean culture, so she's 27.
Oh, she's older than you.
Yeah, she's a couple years older than me, and I know typically, like when you're 30, is normally the age when like most Koreans start looking at marriage. And I know if you want to be together, in terms of like visa and staying together, the marriage is a logical option as well as like the right choice. And so it's something I'm definitely open to.
How would your parents react to the idea?
So I've always lived with my mom and my stepfather my whole life, and they've always been very relaxed. For me in a relationship, they would always say, as long as you're happy, you treat them well, they treat you well, we don't care. My concern is my whole family, my extended family. It's very, very white, very English. No one in my family, like a very large family as well, who dates outside of white British. And so my concern would be, like, if my girlfriend came to stay and she met everyone in the family, she might feel a little isolated, a little nervous, even though she's a very outgoing person. Another concern of mine is my girlfriend's parents. So next year, on good things, like you were still together next year, is when I would go meet them.
But they know your existence.
Yeah. But there's a stereotype of Asian parents having certain expectations when their child is marrying or dating someone. They have expectations. They want to know like where you graduated, your money, what your job is,
Status, right? Status.
what's your parents' job, this sort of thing. And that I'm a bit nervous about because I never went to university, for example. In England, the only reason you need to continuously study and go to university is if your work requires it. So things like medical field,
Right. If you're actually pursuing
law, those things are very important. But outside of that, there are so many other opportunities and ways around it where you don't need to splash out all the money to go to university. But here it's opposite. You know, people ask me, "What's your major?" They don't go, "Did you go to university?" They just assume I went.
Right.
And so, you know, then I'm like, oh no, I never went. And they're very taken aback by that. For me, I'm very, very like content with how I am and what I've become. You know, for me, what I care about in my life is not the job, it's where I am and who I'm surrounded by. If it happens to be get married here, I'm all happy with that. But when it comes to like, if it was ever to raise a child, that's when I would be hesitant.
So you came here last year, stay for a little bit, and then this year you've been here for about 5-6 months. Okay, what's one good thing about Korea and one bad thing about Korea?
I have so many good things, to be honest, to say. The good things heavily outweigh the bad things. Ultimately, everything good comes from the people because people understand, like, for me anyway, efficiency and convenience. That is like the best things in Korea. Like the convenience stores are actually convenient. They're not just called that. In England, we don't have convenience stores. They don't exist. There's no store that's open 24/7 that has everything you want. Or like when it's really busy, people understand how to act in an orderly fashion and to make the most out of your day. As well, the people are always so kind. I remember one of the first memories I have of coming to Korea. I was a bit lost in the subway. I didn't know what to do. And this ajashi came over and he was like helping me get through, even though, you know, he didn't speak any English. I knew no Korean at the time. And for a bad thing, if I didn't have my girlfriend right now, then I wouldn't be certain that I would come back long term just because of that. Like I've done some work here and, you know, it's very, very different to how it is in England anyway. When I came here to Korea last year, I saw how hard people worked, truly, and how they're always trying to improve themselves. And I really admired that, actually. So when I went back to England, I worked really hard at my job. I worked far more than everyone else in my whole company. And I got like really appreciated for that. And that wouldn't have happened if I never came here and saw like how hard people work to improve themselves and to constantly learn new skills. It can be a bad thing. There are some positive things that have come from it. Because yeah, the skills people have here, the number of skills people have here is so impressive to me. I'm very envious. For me, Korea is constantly like always 50-50 like, but right now for me in my life, like the good things about Korea is perfectly suited to me. So for young people, it's one of the best places to be in the world, I think. And then I compare it to sport in Korea. You know, I've been to see like baseball games and football games. There, the crowd do not care if they lose. Why are they not competitive there?
They care about being there.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I went to watch LG Twins play some other team, and the score was so big, it was like 10-0, and I was sat near the away fans. They were losing 10-0, and they were still like having a great time. In England, if you are getting if you're losing that much in a sport game, it's abuse and throwing things.
I guess the crowd matured.
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm not saying
No,
English
no,
people.
no, no. I'm fully in agreement. Like, there's one thing I love is like in big crowds, people are so respectful of one another. Like festivals, for example, I remember like something that can only be done in Korea, not England. University festivals, for example, I went to Sungkyunkwan University Festival, and you had Psy performing, you know, a superstar for free. I could go in. I wasn't a student, anything, and I can go in and watch him for free. In England, if you had a superstar performing, let's say Ed Sheeran, people are climbing over, people are being crushed. You know, everyone is just like, there would just be so much police, so much violence just to see someone perform for free. But here, everyone is so respectful of one another, and they understand that everyone, you know, we can all have this good thing if we all just behave. For me, it's 50-50 in UK and Korea. Like, I like the peacefulness outside of it. You know, I don't want to start fights, things like that. But during the game, like,
Of course,
there should be more energy, more fight.
like raging energy
Exactly.
because you're rooting for your team.
Yeah, so for things like the World Cup, for example, there's no place I'd rather be than with the England fans. In Korea as well, with sport, they only care about winning. They don't like sports where they're not good at, right? I use the example of women's golf as the biggest example. Women's golf is not that big in the sport world, but it's quite big in Korea. Like, loads of people love golf because like 50% of female golfers are either Korean or Korean American or something like that.
If you can describe Korea, all the experiences that you had and all the thoughts and ideas that you have about Korea into one word or one sentence.
I would just use the term potential because there's still so much more to come from here. Like, I feel like I've barely, even though like I've been here for a while and I feel very integrated, I feel like I've barely touched the surface of what I can really accomplish here. I feel like there's so much to achieve here. When you think of the big problem in Korea is the dwindling birth rates. Korea's policy, they realize this. They'll have to welcome more foreigners because they know how popular Korea is now.
Exactly my
And
point.
so I think you get in Korea early and you can make a big thing about it.
Cheers to that. It's at 0.78%. Exactly like what you said. We need to start accepting more foreigners.
Yeah.
James, thank you so much. And thank you for being the first guest of this new format. We'll continue after we cut this. But like I said, I hope this is the very beginning of our relationship. And if there's anything that I can help with, let me know.
Yeah, perfect.
And can't wait for you to come back.
Last time I went back home and all I thought about for 8 or 9 months was coming back. Literally every day I thought about it.
So if you have any last message to our global fans that we don't have yet.
I would just say, like, keep being curious. One of the great things about the modern world is being able to connect with people from around the world, whether it's in person or online. It's such an amazing thing to be able to just learn something new every day, whether it's small or big, to embrace different cultures and different opinions from people. So I really just encourage people, especially in Korea, to just keep doing that.
James Angel, everybody.